Build with Nova is really a shared space for us to really collaborate, talk about what we want to see in the app, what we've been building, what we can be doing better, and the direction that we want to move in the future. One of the things that's been really great over the last year has just been the amount of focus we've been able to pay to the things that people actually find valuable. Because sometimes when we're in the office, you can kind of go off into left field thinking about feature and function within the app that you might want to build. When really Build with Nova has really helped us hone and focus on exactly the things that we should be doing. So at any point, feel free to jump in if you have an idea. If there's something else you'd like to see, let us know. And then beyond that, if you want to reach out afterwards, please don't hesitate. Our contact information will be on the last slide, and we can connect that way too. So this week, it's just me. Normally we have Dan in here with me doing the Build with Nova webinars, but he this week is in Colorado doing some demo days. I think he's with Honey Fire Department today with a number of different regional fire departments. He's got a pretty busy week ahead of him. And actually, he's got a pretty busy September, but he will be here for the next one. And this should be the format for our Build with Novas is about 45 to 60 minutes once a month. We try to aim for the last Tuesday of every month. And where we can just kind of reflect on the things that we've built, the things that we have coming up, and really just kind of get some feedback on the development progress of the platform. So what we built in August. So we have some pretty great new features coming out. We have PDF version 3, which just landed. So I'll walk through that in depth. There's a couple of nuances to it that I want to kind of jump into about the way things used to work versus the way they work now. We're also going to give a Hotspot panel V2 sneak peek. So this is actually coming out next week, probably closer to the end of next week. But this is going to give us a lot more insight into the individual hotspots that we're detecting. And then thirdly, we added a workspace homepage. And this workspace homepage is designed right now to facilitate easier access to sample data for new users on the platform. But it's going to grow into something that begins to share statistics, function more as a dashboard, and provide better administration insight into the way folks are using the platform. So I'll jump into all three of these things in a little bit of depth today. And also looking at what's coming in September. So we're just now starting our bug sprint, and this will last for the next 3 weeks. We have a laundry list of improvement and fixes that we're working on. And if there's anything, again, that is kind of like has stood out to you, or it's a little bit off, or you're like, oh, the pixel width over here looks kind of funky to me, let us know, because this is really the time for us to jump into this and really just kind of add a little bit of grease to the gears that are turning in the app. We'll also have Layers Panel version 3 coming out towards the end of the month. So Layers Panel version 3 will be a lot more flexible. We've seen it in previous Build with Novas, but it'll allow us to have deeper grouping. It'll allow us to hide the panel. It will also have multi-stream functionality so that as we're live streaming, we can see multiple videos all at once together. And then finally, we'll have the on-controller app wireframes ready for the next Build with Nova, which I think I will get to on my next slide. So on-controller app, this is the next really big project that we're working on. And this, we've been working on it now for a couple of weeks, just starting to get the back end set up. Why are we working on an on-controller app? We're really focused on, and especially in the emergency response space, focused on speed across the platform. So how long does it take to get these data products ready for somebody to have access to? And how can we eliminate that friction of right now for building analyzing hotspots or building orthomosaics or running color finder? We have to land the drone, take out the SD card, put it in the computer, and then upload them, and then process that. What the on-controller app is going to allow us to do, along with a number of other, big infrastructure things that we have to make sure are all in the right places. But this is really going to allow us to do hotspots in real time as we're flying the drone. So we'll have photos uploading from the drone as we're flying, streaming into Nova, and then building that orthomosaic as we're flying. So whether that's hotspots, orthomosaics, or color finder, it will give us that capacity across the app so that instead of having to wait until after your flight, the goal is that by the time you've landed the drone, your hotspots will all be displayed on the map. So it's also going to help bolster our live streaming capability. We currently have live streaming within the app, but it's really just focused on several DJI enterprise models. And what building an on-controller app is going to allow us to do is to scale that across all of the different platforms that users have. So whether that's an Autel drone, a Skydio drone, DJI minis, whatever we want, that's going to give us a lot more insight there. And it's also going to allow us to kind of jump into that pilot tracking and fleet tracking side of things. So one of the things we really want to make sure that we're doing is we're reducing friction from a program standpoint when it comes to having multiple different softwares open or required to be able to get a job done. We really want everything to kind of, Nova to be at this confluence of all of these different functions and features that we need, so that when we're looking for a platform, we don't need to be jumping between 3 or 4 different software platforms to get a product and run our program. We have it all together in one. I'll take a quick break. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, sweet. I can't see the chat, Amanda, so if there's anything that comes up, just let me know. So what we built in August, the first big one is the PDF Maps update. I'm going to jump into this in our preview environment. So our preview environment here is a development server that we use to be able to test features as they're coming out. It's not the most stable, so sometimes, just to prep us, there might be a crash as we're going through this, but we'll be able to recover quickly. Just looking at the new streamlined designs, you know what? I'll just jump into it. So I'm going to jump into our preview environment here. Oh, I'm showing. Oh, please. Yeah, shoot. We have a question.
Matrice 4.
Yes, it will work on a Matrice 4. So the on-controller app, that's the benefit of it, is it's going to work across really any platform that uses a tablet-like device to display your flight control. So, okay, so jumping into the georeference PDF, I'm going to go to my create button, and I'm going to go generate PDF. And I'm using a wildfire as an example here to kind of show all of the different features, but this is being used across a huge range of different incident types. So to start, I'm going to look, we've added up here in the top left, I'll go left to right, starting with page sizes. We've added 2 new page sizes. So we have 24 by 36 and 36 by 48. What this allows us is that for those larger incidents, when there's a plotter on scene, when it's a multi-day incident and we want large operational maps up on the wall for anybody to come in and see, I have access to these. So in terms of being able to create operational maps within the app from the data you're collecting, you can set these up really quickly and easily. Next, we have color. So as kind of a fun feature for firefighters that are working at night, and we know there's more and more of them, you can flip your color over to dark mode so that you don't have that. Right now we're looking at a white background map, but let's say I change the background here to satellite. We can start to get a map that's a little bit less shocking to the senses if you're opening your phone at night. And we can create these black PDF maps. We've seen quite a few of them come through the app, which is exciting. So you have a little bit more function there. And then most importantly, I think from a page layout perspective, we have the ability to change from landscape to portrait and move the location of our legend from the right-hand side down to the bottom. So as we have folks kind of working with incidents that are all types of different shapes and have different geographical footprints, what this allows us to do is to really kind of scope that so we can create the map that's right for the incident. Now I'll jump back to our standard landscape here. Now, the features that we have in the PDF haven't changed too much. We can still turn on our inset, our ratio bar, text boxes, metadata, and you can see it all populating along the bottom here. Again, the goal here is to have a back of the truck mapping platform. So something that you don't need a GIS degree for, and you can still make a really professional product really easily. I'll pop on grid lines and border ticks here. Now, if we're working on a wildfire, one of the things that's changed is the default. We used to by default show the size of the fire perimeter. But now in order to do that, you have to jump into the feature section here. And I jump over to these three vertical dots on the right-hand side of my fire perimeter layer. I click this and I go show area. So now underneath this, I can see that this fire is 1,051 acres, and that will show up on my legend beneath the fire perimeter. I can also now, and one thing I'll do is I'll actually go back and I'll turn on, in case you're working with folks that are using GPSs or you want to get, or you just want the back of your map to have a list of all the coordinates for your hotspots, I can jump into hotspots, I can go show labels. Now, this isn't, I mean, this works, but it's not that functional if you have hundreds of thousands of hotspots across your fire. But on fires that we're looking to call out, what we can do is we can turn on these labels. And from here, I can jump into my PDF map. Hitting M on your keyboard is a nice quick shortcut, by the way. And I can go into settings and I can turn this include hotspot table on the back. So if I go include hotspot table, now when I generate this PDF, give it a second here. So I actually made one before this demo, just to be ready for it. And you can see this is our preview environment. So some of this is cut off a little bit here. But I have not only the thumbnail of the PDF of our fire, but I can also move to the back pages of it to see what I'm downloading. So I can get all of those coordinate lists in case folks want to be able to take those and manually punch them into a GPS. I'm surprised by how many people still really like that, but it was a major feature request that we got, and it allows us to more quickly, just quickly get that out. Oh, look, a quick crash. This is a classic preview environment issue. Let me just pull us back up here. So this is the PDF mapping tool. Does anyone have any questions?
There's one, I think, controller app.
Oh yeah, shoot.
Will it work with the Alt X with Ignis?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Will the On Controller app work with the Ignis? That is our goal. So especially working with prescribed burn machines, we really want to make sure that that this app will work for that as well. I can't promise anything out the gate, but it's definitely on the roadmap. My guess, I don't know who asked it, but my guess would be that it was Michael Rhodes, and it was. Okay, great. Thanks, Amanda. So yeah, so optimally it will, and I think it probably can just based on the fact that they're already using the Ignis app to do some flight things. So it should have that crossover compatibility. Okay, moving off of PDF maps, let's jump back to our slideshow. The next thing that we had in August was a workspace homepage. And really, this is just the seed of what the workspace homepage will become. But what we wanted to make sure we did at the outset here was make sure that we have, and let me just go to my homepage here, is we had a way for new users to access sample data before they actually started flying. So before, let's say you're bringing a new pilot and you want them to kind of get the feel for how Nova works before they go out and fly, or even new, for us generally, you have new people coming onto the platform and getting those users familiar with it without necessarily having to have data available. What you can do now is you can jump down into this try our features and tools and create a demo project. And it will allow me, even if I haven't purchased the licenses for it, be able to sample these different functions and features within the app. And we got the sample data actually last week. Dan and Richard were down in Washington with Washington DNR doing a training and onboarding, I think 2 days with their team. And while they were down there, they collected some sample data that we were then now able to use within the platform. So, for example, if I want to try using hotspots, for example, I can go use sample data, and it's going to walk through all of the steps necessary post upload to be able to do this. So in this case, I'd hit process, and it's not actually going to process the data. It's just going to simulate what those processing steps look like and give folks a layer to be able to play with and work with really quickly so that they can get their hands on a little bit faster. So in this case, we have this new hotspot layer. I can look at the IR orthomosaic. I can look at hot areas. I can play around with the different filters that we have from the work site that the team was at down in Washington last week. So what's really exciting about the homepage on the whole is kind of the opportunity that it provides as time goes on to provide a management dashboard, gain more insights, and especially as we start having pilot tracking and fleet tracking coming into the app, kind of consolidating a lot of that information into one place that's easy to view. And we're having some conversations now about whether we want to, have ranked leaders for, biggest distance flown or most hotspots processed. So we're really looking forward to scoping that out and building that, and almost certainly we can expect to see that in future build with Nova demos here in the coming months. So stay tuned there. Let me jump back to our slide deck. So what's coming in August, or what's here essentially now. So this is going to be out in about a week and a half. And again, I'm going to jump back into our preview workspace here to kind of show how this works. But this is something that we've wanted to work on for a really long time. And there's a few reasons for it. One, it allows us to not only validate hotspots, but it allows us to really, especially on those fires that you want to call out, and just validate that there are no missing hotspots in the model. This allows you to look at not just your hotspot photos, but all of the photos captured across your flight. It also allows you to see the map right now, actually. So I'll jump into production. So if I click on a hotspot map, oh, not this one. This is where we store our sample data. Hold on. Let me jump into fire. So if I jump onto this fire right here and I click on one of these hotspots, my hotspot preview looks like this. It's this toaster pop-up. It covers a big section of the screen, and it gives us some valuable information about the hotspot, lines up where the immogram is, but it doesn't really give me a lot of control or ability to work with it as a tool. It's more just a visualization effect. So what I can do now, if I jump into, or what I'll be able to do in about a week and 1 day from now, is I can actually click on these hotspots. And the first thing I'm going to get is I'm going to get this preview image over here on the side. And you can see I've got this crosshairs as I move across the image. And along the bottom here, we'll have an immogram. But what I can do is if I go see full detail, this is going to pull up an image preview that gives me a lot more functionality. The first thing I'll draw your attention to is this bounding box that we have over here on the map that shows a rough estimation of that photo footprint. So I can see where the hotspots are in the photo and where that photo footprint is on the map. As I move my cursor along, I can also see I've got these crosshairs here, which give me a good indication of exactly what my hotspot's lining up here. And what we're lining this crosshair up with is this immogram down here. So we can see these spikes along the vertical and x-axis here on the image. So we can line up and make sure that what I'm seeing is really a hotspot and that it lines up with what it should. I can also now zoom into the hotspots by just scrolling on my trackpad here. I can zoom in. So if I want to get a better sense of what I'm looking at, I can see that really quickly. And as we had before, we have some stats about the hotspot, and we've also added stats about the file, so about that particular image. Now, what I can do as well, so right now we have our bounding box here on the screen. I can also turn on my image overlay. So not only do I see my bounding box of the image, but I can see the hotspots and the image itself on that. Now, one of the things you're going to notice when this feature comes in is that the hotspots don't always line up with the image. And this is expected. So one of the reasons that we can't just find hotspots on images and place them is because our ability to accurately georeference a single image isn't accurate enough to be able to place hotspots for firefighters to go and walk through. So the way the model works is it looks at individual photos and it finds those hotspots and then it cross-references them with the orthomosaic. So what we can do is, let me turn on the orthomosaic here, is we can see that my orthomosaic and my image don't perfectly overline, but my hotspots on the orthomosaic do perfectly overline, or sorry, overlap. And what this allows me to do is get those firefighters to those hotspots really effectively and really accurately. But the image is just an ability for us to be able to quickly see where in this image those hotspots are. And that's particularly important when we're dealing with hard to find hotspots. The next thing I can do is I can actually move between, and I think this isn't quite working well, so we'll see how it goes. But if I click next, it's going to zoom me in right now. But you can actually, and when this comes out next week, we'll be able to quickly toggle from hotspot to hotspot to hotspot. Or if I go this show list, from photo to photo to photo. So as we're moving along here, let's see if this works. It's zooming me in like crazy. Sorry, guys. But we can see that I can quickly just go across and see if there's any spikes down here in the imagram that were missed on the map itself, and more effectively and quickly line those hotspots up with the infrared images. Now, I have two ways to navigate through this files list. One, if I click on an image, it's going to take me from photo to photo to photo. But if I click here and I select a hotspot, it's going to allow me, so you can see this hotspot that I've selected, 164. It kind of gets this elevated profile, where we can see that it's been selected. And it's going to move from hotspot to hotspot to hotspot instead of photo to photo to photo. So we can now get a better understanding of all those hotspots. We can see that more quickly. And we can make sure that what we're finding in the images are landing on the map itself. Finally, we have a place hotspot modal now up here. So if we do find that maybe there is something that we want folks to go check out, or that if you were a little uncertain about, we can now manually place hotspots directly from here. And what we'll have next week is the ability to multi-select hotspots and multi-delete hotspots. So let's say there's a bunch of trucks in a parking lot next to an incident that have been picked up. You'll be able to quickly multi-select those hotspots and delete them. And then from the filter standpoint, you'll actually be able to show the hotspots that you've removed. Those will show up on the map as X's. So we'll get a better sense of what we've taken off and the work that we've done with that hotspot layer before we push it forward. This is the quick overview of the new hotspot panel. Oh, the other thing you can also, let's see if I can get it to work here. You can also shrink and drag this modal depending on how much screen space you have. So you can quickly move that. And then again, if I hide show lists, I can make this even smaller. Oh no, this is the minimum screen size. So yeah, any questions or comments, thoughts? Okay, awesome guys. Let me jump back into the slide deck here. Hotspot modal. Okay, September roadmap. We have the new hotspot panel. That should be out next week. And then after that, we're really focused on our bug sprint for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Like I said, laundry list of items. We're really excited to tackle them. A lot of things that are just going to kind of smooth things out. And if you guys have any friction points, again, that you guys have noticed, please let us know. This is a really great time to tackle them. Late September, we're going to be landing our layers panel version 3, hopefully, as well as multi-stream viewing. And our on-controller app wireframes and prototype will be out in time for our next build with Nova. So we'll have a lot of opportunity to talk about the on-controller app, what it's going to be able to do, and really understand, make sure we're not missing anything, right? And that, like I said earlier, we're not finding ourselves lost in left field. And then finally in October, one of the things that's going to help facilitate real-time orthomosaic is our new really fast orthomosaics tool. So we're really aiming for mid to late October of that. We're going to see Color Finder version 2 land in late October, which we're really excited about. And then 3D map layers within the app are scheduled for then as well, so we can get a bit more depth at what we're looking at. Our travel conference has been pretty busy coming out of August. We were just in Virginia last week. The week before we were in Washington. This week we're in Colorado. Next week we're in Las Vegas at the Commercial UAV Expo. And then the 2 weeks after that, we're at the NASF annual meeting in Hawaii. Later September, we have the Canadian Wildfire Conference. And then in October, we're going to the CAL FIRE Chiefs Conference. I know that coming into November, we're going to be doing a lot around the Southwest US. We have a big New Mexico trip planned. We'll be in California for a portion of it. And if there's anywhere that you're like, hey, we'd really love a visit, or we think there'd be some value, let us know. We'd love to come say hi. And yeah, again, pulse check, bug sprint, anything, please let us know. Yeah, Q&A. If you guys have anything, I'd love to hear it. But thanks so much for your time today.